Now that we have some more things that we understand how to work with in Photoshop, we're going to start adding even more to it. So what we haven't looked at before are some other details down in the layers palette. Now if I look here, I'll see I have layers and it says normal. And if I click on normal, I'll see that there's different options. And what these options are blending modes, how the colors are going to mix together. So that if I combine the pixels in one layer, they will combine with another. So if I turn on just the original background layer and that layer, now we can see how that layer is combining and adding to the pixels. Suddenly I start to get almost a cell shaded look to what's going on here, or we get some nice texture. We can see where we get less, more, and if I continue through the list, there's quite a few options to control how these blend together. So just using a filter. Now that's kind of like Solarize, but way better. So just using one filter, we can get some pretty interesting effects. So now if I combine it here, I'm just going to leave it at color burn. And now if I turn that off, let's go and look at this. Now this layer here with all of these dots, maybe that's a little bit too much. So what I can do with that layer is I can go to that layer's opacity. I'm going to zoom in here. So when we see opacity, we see that there's a slider if I click, or if I put my cursor over it, it gives me the hand and I can just click and drag. And we can see how, now I'll zoom back out, it's reducing it. So it's now applying it, but not as much. Now if we combine the two, okay, we're getting somewhere. Maybe I don't like that. Maybe I want to use these lines, but I don't want those lines. Well, let's see what happens if we combine. Okay, now that's kind of fun. That creates some interesting texture into the image. So let's combine that in. I'm going to go with it here. But maybe I want to lower its opacity so it's there, but not as much. So I get some of that texture. Because if I have too much of it there, then that becomes too much to deal with, and I don't want to necessarily do that. So now I've combined together 3 separate filter layers along with my original, transforming this dramatically from what was there before. Now if I want to take this and put this into my poster document, I can't just simply drag a layer. If I use, let's just say I use the lasso tool and make a selection and copy that. Now if I go into my poster layer and paste, we will see that it only copied that one layer that was selected. So that's not helping us there. But there is a way that we can do this. And what we can do, if we look under, I'm just going to select everything, or I could use the lasso and just select closer to the face. But we have an option to copy merged. And when I choose copy merged, what happens is it takes essentially a snapshot of all these layers as if it was only one layer. So now when I paste that in, it puts that whole image in. But it has a background on it and we want to get rid of it. So I can use my lasso and I can select it. So I can select the area around and hit delete. So that narrows it down. And now because of what is going on here, it's going to be very difficult to get rid of all of that background just using, say, if I want to use the quick select, it's going to have a really hard time figuring out the difference between the face and the hair. So then that's problematic. If I were to go back to the original image and look at this original image, then the quick select, or let's try object select here. So Command D to deselect. Now I'm going to use object select, and what I really just want the neck and the head as part of this. I don't really care about the shoulder, so I'm just going to select that. And we can see that is pretty good. Now, if I turn back on those layers to give me what I want, this time, if I choose copy merged, now get rid of the selection. When I paste, it just puts that face in. So now I've been able to combine together filters, combine together layer blending modes and layer opacity to give me some good results with this. Now, if I want to grab, let's grab this face here, so I will select. Looks like it did a pretty good job, so I'm going to copy that one. I'll paste that one in there. Let's repeat the process and grab Mr. Multi-Eye. And let's see. Oh, because that layer was active, it chose. All right, well, we'll grab that head. I just realized that looks like Snoke from the Star Wars final trilogy. So now I'm extra disturbed, but yeah, we'll go with it. Can put that in there. If I grab the move tool, now I can separate out these faces and realize we have some interesting things going on. Just because this layer is on top, if I want to see the layer behind or do something with it, there are ways that we can do that. Now, something we haven't looked at yet is how to use a layer mask. Now, to do a layer mask, what we can do, so right now we're focusing on the layers palette. We looked at layer blending modes, looked at layer opacity. Now a layer mask, I'm aware of which layer is active, and I click on layer mask. Now it adds this little thing off to the side here, and when we look, there's a little chain link connecting it, and then it adds this white square. So this white square is the mask. Now what a mask is, it allows us to show or hide parts of a layer, and we paint on it using grayscale, so black or white. Right now it's white, so I can see everything. So if I just grab a big brush and I'm going to paint with black, so I've set my color to work with black. Now notice we have color here, and no matter what color I choose, colors become gray, because on a mask layer, unlike an artwork layer, see the artwork layer, we get back the pink. If I wanted to paint with purple, that'd give me purple, but if I go to the mask layer, I don't get that. I only get black and white. So if you're working with your colors and then you realize, wait, why is it black and white, and you have a mask, that's a good reason why that has happened. Now with this mask here, I'll grab a paintbrush. I'm gonna just make it really big so we can see the result quickly. And if I were to paint right here, you will see how it's now hiding part of that image. And if we look here, we will see that it even shows me a little thumbnail. I just painted black there as well. If I keep going, adds more there, and it hides it. So when we paint with black, things go away. Now, if I flip-flop my background and foreground color, because one is black, one is white, I can do that using the X key on the keyboard. So I hit X, it flips it. Now if I paint with white, it brings it back. So while we've been looking at how to kill pixels and do destructive edits, sometimes, especially when we are compositing images, we may wish to be a little bit more judicious and work with non-destructive edits, because you see how easily and quickly I can then get that edge to start to line up. So layer masks are incredibly powerful, and they're the hallmark of doing non-destructive edits. And in most work, you're going to find that you will use a combination of techniques to arrive at your end result or destination. Now, right now I've only painted with black and white. going to just move this head in front here. Now if I add a mask to that layer, again down in the layers palette, the little icon here, we'll see if I let the tooltip comes up, it says add layer mask. So I'll click. Layer mask has now been added to that layer. This time I'm going to paint with gray. And when I paint with gray, you can see how it is transparent instead of opaque. So when we do it with black or white, it creates it as a on or off. But when I paint with gray, you can see how it's making it transparent. So we can really control with a high degree of accuracy and precision and subtlety when we blend our images if we use a layer mask as a means of combining things together. So with that, I'm going to, let's see, we haven't used this one yet, so let's copy this face over. And now when I paste that in, puts it on top and puts it there. So now I have this layer on top of this layer, and I've decided that the only part of this that I want, I'm just going to keep the mouth. But I'm not going to delete. I will use a layer mask in case I change my mind. So I add in a layer mask, go to my paintbrush, and going to make it even bigger. So I can now capture just, now I could have just copied over just the mouth when I brought it in, and yes, that would have worked, but this now gives me quite a bit of flexibility down the road. Use the move tool, I can now move this around. Oh, it looks like we got a little spot up there we want to erase, so go back to my paintbrush. And now I've combined the mask mouth with the distorted face. So we've looked at how we can bring things over. We've looked at how to combine them using copy merged when we have multiple layers inside a single document. So we can take a snapshot of those multiple layers, change layer opacity, change layer blending modes, layer mask, all kinds of really good stuff.